I just don't play Christian music.
Maybe your music could be a little bit more spiritual.
You probably don't know that.
I was hoping you would demonstrate.
You're just a bit too difficult. Take my advice.
I just expect
They are the best and the worst you've created, loving and hating and opinionated, loners in basements and those congregated. Deliver me. Far from the peaceful shore I was sinking, deep in the ocean of thoughts they were thinking. Don't know what validation I was seeking. Deliver me from people. When you said you could heal me from anything, did you mean people? Deliver me. 'Cause I can't point them out, I won't say their names. I don't know the damage or which one to blame. It's just people. Deliver me. She was the reason I smiled in the morning. He took the last bit of joy I was storing. That's too much power for anything human. Deliver me from people. Know you can heal me from anything. What about people? Deliver me. 'Cause I can't point them out, I won't say the names. I don't know the damage or which one to blame. It's just people. Deliver me. The hurt I hurt it, and the broken are breaking, and the ones who had their joy taken away are out here taking from other people. Forgive these people. Heal me from crazy trolling, self-righteous, entitled, hating, lying, disrespectful. Forgive me when I'm one of those people. Deliver me. Is my living God? Is my giving God? Is my praying God? Jesus brought the sunshine. Tell somebody else, Jesus brought the sunshine. You made my day. You came my way. You heard me every time I pray. You gave me peace. You gave me grace. You put a smile on my face. You
Connecting the community through gospel. The new 107.9 FM, W300EB, Macon, and WDDO 980 AM, Perry, Macon.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of the Glory 980 AM, the Glory Media Group, LLC, WDDO AM, its staff, management, or advertisers, but are the views and opinions of the participants of the broadcast.
It is now time for the live broadcast of the NAACP with Gwenette Westbrooks and Mr. Dumas.
Good evening and welcome to another segment of the NAACP Truth Show. I'm Willie Dumas, your host. We'll be joined by President Westbrooks by way of Skype, possibly, and we look forward to have a special guest today. I hope you're having a great, beautiful day today. After all this rain we've gotten throughout the week, the sunshine is definitely warranted, and so I hope you're enjoying this beautiful day. Which we probably will still get some scattered showers today, which hopefully that'll be late when everybody's in and taking care of most of their business. The NAACP, we hosted a town hall meeting this past week, this past Thursday, and the topic of discussion, we had the DA, DA Howard, along with the Sheriff Davis. Also, we had a representative from Senator Ossoff's office, Mrs. Wolf, and we had a series of questions that came about from this town hall meeting that were addressed. One of the ones in which I want to kind of alleviate on or kind of speak on is the SNAP benefits. Mrs. Wolf from Senator Ossoff's office brought some information in regards to SNAP benefits. One of the questions that came up was, has there been any type of investigation to determine what was happening with these benefits and why so many people are affected? Their office really didn't have an answer to that during that present time, but since there's an article that came out, and so I want to read a little bit of that as it relates to those benefits. It says Georgia and South Carolina SNAP benefits have been perforated by an international crime gang, crime ring. It says here from Atlanta, it says scammers continue stealing hundreds of millions of taxpayers' dollars from electronic food benefit cards. Federal agencies are liking the fraud to international crime rings. It says the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Secret Service, and the Department of Homeland Security ran a sting operation targeting EBT skimming at more than 100 locations in Los Angeles on May 1st, stating they made 10 arrests and confiscated high-value evidence. The scammers are taking benefits directly out of Supplemental Food Assistance Program accounts, and its problem is plaguing many Georgians and South Carolinians recipients. It went on to say many families' food money for the month is disappearing within minutes of being deposited into their cards. It says often these transactions are taking place in several states in less than 2 minutes. So it takes less than 2 minutes for them to actually take those benefits from the cards. It says many of the stores where these fraudulent transactions are supposedly taking place are not in the USDA's approval retail database, but the transactions are still going through. So these scammers are pretty smart in that even certain stores that's not supposed to take those cards, the transaction still goes through. It says while the USDA has not responded to requests for comments, it issued a news release regarding the sting operation in May, confirming criminals are cloning points of sale terminals. And the NAACP, we talked about that on our show on last week, where you have to be very cautious about when you use your card at a particular location. They have these skimmers that once you stick your card in, it actually takes all that money off your card and goes somewhere, I guess, with this criminal ring. It says criminals stole about $350 million last year alone. Date provided by the USD shows a drastic increase in recent EBT fraud across the country in 2024 final quarter, with a 350% increase from the first quarter. And so this is becoming a national problem, not just a state problem, but a national problem. Good evening, Kimberly Houston. Thank you for tuning in and to the show today. It went on to say that the USDA is also no longer reimbursing stolen funds as of December 2024, when allocated federal funding to address the problem ended. And of course, we touched on that in that as a new administration, the current administration is not reimbursing persons that have been affected, by this. During the Biden era, under that administration, of course, they were reimbursing people their funds up into the month of December. In a statement, Secret Service Director Sean Curran said, protecting our nation's most vulnerable communities is a responsibility that we take very seriously, and I'm passionate about it. This was from this written statement that was given. And so we know that is a current problem here in our state, here locally in Macon, where many recipients have lost their benefits to fraud. But the question is, will anything be done? These families, they got children that they have to feed, and there hasn't been any resolve to this particular issue. And of course, this is of grave concern, particularly to the NAACP, and should be a grave concern to our community, that the most vulnerable of our community are being affected by this ongoing problem of scamming and skimming their cards. And so, just a lot of fraudulent things that are happening, and we're in an ever-changing world. We saw that transpire from the beginning of the year up until now. So many different changes that are affecting people adversely. And of course, we want to make sure that some of the things are being addressed, that as it relates to that. Also in our town meeting, of course, we had the DA Howard, who was there, and she was answering questions about some of the cases taking so long to go before courts. And she kind of addressed that and gave some of the issues that can cause, cases to be prolonged as far as going to court. And some of those had to do with evidence. Some of it had to do with people changing their attorneys. Sometimes a client will drop their attorney and get another attorney. And so when they do that, that kind of prolongs the process because of the different procedures that have to take place. And so there were a number of factors that actually affect that. And so we have identified the fact that some cases, people have been in jail, incarcerated 3 to 4 years and not had a court date. that's pretty much concerning, knowing that it takes that amount of time for a person to get their due process. And so those are concerns, of course, with the DA's office. Of course, they've had a backlog of cases, even when the DA took on the new position. There were a backlog of cases, and so catching up, it seems to be, a pretty difficult task to undertake. But she did say that they are using every calendar week to try to get cases, before a judge, and so it's a diligent effort on their behalf to get a lot of these cases moving along. Also, of course, we had Sheriff Davis in our town hall meeting as well. And as you know, there have been a series of issues concerning the jail, particularly here lately where someone lost their life, in the jail. And so there's been a lot of speculation as to what should happen in that regard, who's responsible, and those kind of things. There's some pending lawsuits. And even in the past week or so, there were some people who had overdosed with drug use, and so there's a lot of concerns, and there were a lot of questions in regards to the cleanliness of the jail, the safety of the jail, and also the safety of the officers and the inmates. So that goes kind of both ways as it relates to safety. Some of the concerns that came about during the town hall meeting, I actually asked the question as to if there were, crowding issues. Did we have any neighboring partners with sheriff departments in the mid-state that we could actually transfer some of the prisoners at the local jail to their facilities? And Sheriff Davis did mention that in certain cases, they are doing that. But a lot of times, with really bad actors, of course, nobody wants someone else's problem kids. And so, that can be an issue with it itself. But when the numbers get over the capacity of the jail, that would be one of the remedies that they could use. We talked about overcrowding in the jail, and he gave us some numbers that the jail capacity, I believe, don't quote me, is somewhere about 960 or 940, something to that degree. And at one point they had about 1,000 inmates, but they don't have that issue at the present moment. And so they do understand that, space is needed at the jail. Not only is space needed, of course, but new facilities where they can actually control the inmates a lot better, because they have these open bay type settings where a lot of the inmates are there in a group setting. And sometimes that causes issues, particularly when you can't separate individuals for a prolonged period of time. That becomes an issue. And so that was some of the concerns. They also talked about the mental health component. You have a lot of inmates that are in there for mental health reasons. And of course, sometimes if you don't have adequate training, the officers know what to do with someone who's mentally challenged, that can be cause some substantial problems in the jail. But most of them have to take a particular training as it relates to mental health. And so we covered some of that information as well. We also talked about some of the safety issues, such as inmates being stabbed or making weapons within the jail. And we do know that does exist. And some ways of controlling that, of course, is to make sure they're really watching contraband, monitoring, making sure that no contraband is brought into the jail, either by officers or by family members of the inmates. And so those types of things are things that are closely watched. to make sure we have a safe environment in our jail system. There were some people who commented and said the best way to alleviate having issues in the jail is to stay out of the jail, as far as conducting themselves in such a way that they're not incarcerated, because we know when you get a lot of criminals in one particular setting, that can pose a lot of issues with itself. As it relates to gang violence, a lot of times you have gangs from different gangs, and of course that could cause a lot of the issues as well. And so those people have to be separated in order to keep our jails safe and to keep the officers safe within the jail. Some of the other issues that we talked about as it relates to the jail is having adequate staffing to make sure that the proper monitoring of the prisoners is done, that they can do the type of routine checks that need to be done, shakedowns, if you would, to make sure that you alleviate, stockpiling of weapons that they may have, constructed or put together. Those types of things, contraband, and all those things can be eliminated once you have proper shakedowns and rotations of officers to make sure that inmates aren't bringing certain contraband in. And so those were some of the concerns as well. Having adequate pay to keep keep our officers here in Bibb County. We lose a lot of officers to other counties when the pay scale is not at a certain level, and so officers look for better pay in other counties. And so those are some of the things that have to go through the county commissioners to make sure that they're having the adequate revenue needed to support our officers to make sure they do the best job that they can do. I see Sheriff Davis is getting ready to join us here, and so you get to hear it from the horse's mouth on a lot of these questions that we may have. And if you have a question you want to ask, we would applaud you to give us a call here at the station at 478-250-1444. Once again, that number is 478-250-1444. Good evening, Sheriff Davis. Like we've been spending a lot of time, we've spent a lot of time together here the last couple of weeks. I was just telling our listening audience, we had a town hall meeting last week, and you guys came in and got a chance to answer some of the questions that they had concerns about, and we touched a little bit on some of those things. But
well, good. I apologize for running late. My 3 o'clock appointment ran a little over, but we've been all around town answering questions and listening to the concerns of the community about our jail facilities and about whatever else that may be on their mind. That's
Absolutely.
Right. That's right. So that is a topic of conversation by some of the things that have happened in the jail, and also by the conversation of whether we're going to build a new one or add on to what we already have. So certainly I want to hear the input of the community, because the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
The oil. That's
right. So we want to be kind of squeaky when it comes to things for the jail facility and looking at the right remedy for some of the issues that we have.
Right. And, we also got an opportunity to talk a little bit about the cameras. The cameras went back up this past week, and we had a lot of concerns about, particular areas where cameras are and other areas where they may not be. And if you can kind of let our listening audience know a little bit about that.
Sure. One of the big problems with the cameras that didn't seem to be as clear a communication as to exactly where they were, when they were going to be operational, and then the any type of speed grace that might be given. So we were hoping that the General Assembly would have come through and done some changes in the law to clarify some of that, but they didn't get a chance to There were some bills that were advanced but didn't quite make it through. So that's when I suspended approvals of the citations for a little over a month. And then we decided to bring them back. However, with clear word that only when the lights are flashing, both in the morning and in the afternoon. Now that varies at different schools because the between the grammar schools, the middle schools, and the high schools have different start and end times. However, there's the good rule of thumb: if that light is flashing, know that you are apt to be held responsible for your speed. And then there's a 10-mile-an-hour grace given, and that grace is always given. However, it was not clearly communicated. So if you're doing 11 miles an hour or faster over that posted speed limit on the flashing light sign, then you're going to be held accountable for that speed and possibly get a citation. And then there was a conversation about some schools had opted out, and there were two schools. There was Stratford Academy and First Presbyterian Day School had determined that they wanted to opt out. And under the law that governs the speed zone cameras, each school board, but each school is specific to each school, has the right to opt in or opt out through the Department of Transportation. Now, both of these schools had once had a permit. They had asked for and received a permit, but later on they decided that they wanted that permit rescinded. They had sent in a letter to the Department of Transportation. The Department of Transportation has since rescinded their permit. So no speed zone camera citations will be issued. However, a deputy in a sheriff's car can still issue the citations at those locations. Exactly. And so each and every other school in Macon Bibb can make that determination, whether it's a public school or a private school, can make that determination and ask for their permit to be rescinded.
Right, and I think we mentioned the fact that Superintendent Sims would have to make that determination for the local Bibb County public schools.
That's right. He can make that determination for all of the schools or single out all
certain ones,
grammar schools, all middle schools, all high schools. So I'm sure that's a conversation that the school board will be having during the summer. With those cameras will run through the end of school, which really will be next week. And then they'll run through summer school, and we'll be getting out the information. There's only going to be about 3 or 4 schools that summer school will take place, and we'll make sure that the residents know where those will be, and that if there's flashing lights there, we'll be held accountable for that. But then after that, there'll be some time to look and see if the school board wants to do it starting back in the fall, and there'll be clear communication given out right before school starts as to how everything's going to operate at that point.
Right, but a good rule of thumb is that flashing light, if you see it flashing, you got to go by that speed.
That's right.
Absolutely. Now, going back to the jail, we kind of mentioned the fact of possibly extending or an add-on or an annex to the current jail.
Yeah, I think that when we look at the SPLOST was anticipated to raise about $400 million, and I think that's over about 8 or 10 years. And a new jail, a whole new jail facility with the land to put it on and all of that's probably going to run about $300 million. So you can imagine you're only going to have $400 million, and there's some other things that I think that the community wants, some things with roads and some other infrastructure throughout the county that needs to be updated. And so you just wouldn't have enough money.
Right.
And so I've looked at what we can do with less money and less time, and building an extension or an add-on to what we have now, maybe a 200-bed annex to put the sickest of the sick, those that are both physically ill and have mental health challenges, as well as the most disruptive of the disruptive. And so most of the people in our jail is almost 1,000 inmates, a little under 1,000 now. Most of them have no trouble they do their time. They realize that they're waiting to go to court or serving a sentence, and so they're waiting to get out, and they're not disruptive. But a very small percentage, probably about less than 10% of that number, are people who are being disruptive, who are causing trouble, and then that they sort of lure others into that disruptive behavior, and then it becomes a problem for us. So if we have a place, those particular individuals can have some a little bit tighter scrutiny, and I think it'll help to calm the jail down, and then have a little money left over to maybe fix some of the aging things that we have done, because we have plumbing, heating and air, those kinds of things that are all the time being repaired and replaced. So I think we can do that for considerably less money and have it completed fairly quickly. And when I say fairly quickly, we're talking from 7 to 9 years on a new facility,
Right.
to maybe 3 to 5 if you look at it doing an annex.
Well, one of the things that the NAACP has suggested, and I think we talked briefly about it during the town hall, is if we could come in and do our own inspection on a monthly basis on different areas of the jail, because a lot of times people, make complaints about certain areas being, not that clean or whatever the case may be, and that way can alleviate some of those concerns by coming in and just, with our own eyes, kind of seeing what's going on.
Well, that's something that we can certainly look at and do. I know that the DA was down a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
There's some talk that the commissioners may come down and have a look. So we can certainly accommodate that. Maybe have a couple of people. I know President Westbrooks is down every Wednesday for the walk away program,
right,
with Herbert Denard, but that's just in one common area of the jail. It's not even in the further back, but that's something we can look at accommodating. We have to remember this is a jail, and there
right,
are folks that liable to try to be disruptive while we're there, but I don't have a problem. We try to be as transparent. Also, the grand jury will be coming in here in a few weeks. DA Howard and I are working on a time to fit their schedule whenever they convening for the grand jury to come in and look at it too. So we try to be transparent and also accountable and answerable whenever we get calls of specific issues going on down there.
Now, as relates to that, of course, there's some things I guess you can't talk about, pending lawsuits and that kind of thing. But how much, from your point of view, how many types of complaints, I say, on a weekly basis are you pretty much getting?
Well, a lot of the complaints are some inmates will possibly be involved in some type of physical altercation. They may have been assaulted. Some of them are being scammed. You have a lot of these folks that are the most disruptive. They run in little scams where that they making other inmates
pay for their
mattress, pay for their lunch. So those are the type of inmates that we want to move out and sort of isolate them in a place where they can't be as disruptive to an inmate. And it's usually the ones who are just there trying to serve their sentence and not wanting to really be disruptive or cause any kind of problems. Those are the ones that are preyed upon by those
the bad actors, right?
Yeah.
Now, also as it relates to the jail, there was a concern at one time, and I think this is an old concern. They were talking about the food as far as the loaf, and how is that going? We kind of never got really a progress report on that. Is that still a issue or somewhat of an issue?
Well, what that is what's known as a neutral loaf, and we've not used that in quite a while. It is for compliance. It's a loaf of everything nutritionally you can put in it. It looks like a big meatloaf, and it's not very appetizing. And that's sort of that's sort of the premise behind it.
Right.
You have a block or a group of inmates that are being disruptive, and you feed them this for a few days, that sort of changes behavior. But we've not had to use or haven't used the neutral loaf in quite a while, and so we try to stay away from that because of the complaints we've had, but also other ways to get compliance and that sort of thing. So, and we have a meal company that provides the food to us, and that provides the meals, and is cooked on premises and passed out to all the inmates throughout the jail.
Wonderful. Now, as it relates to the officers, getting good qualified officers, I know there are some shortages that we've experienced here locally. What are some of the things you guys are kind of doing to get some good officers, to work?
Well, we're always short. The jail is not as short as it once was. We do have more part-timers, and some of those part-timers have Department of Corrections prison work experience, and that's sort of helping bring some maturity to the jail. But we've recently started a program now where someone who has not previously had any experience in law enforcement but wants to patrol the streets, who wants to go out on the road, we will take them, and they will go start into our mini academy to go to mandate school or the police academy. Police academy now is almost 6 months, and it's very intensive and very complex. So we need to get people sort of ready for that, so that they can get on into mandate. And then once they do that, they'll go on out to the road. So we have like a dual track, people that want to work in the jail, and we still do have a lot of people who want to come and work in the corrections. And then those who want to work on the road can go straight out and start that training. And we've had a pay raise for that. Mayor Miller and the commissioners used some of the school's own money to raise the starting pay for a non-certified officer up to now almost $46,000 a year.
Wow.
That coupled with the overtime that they would make is almost $50,000. So you can imagine, and we'll hire people at 18. So if you get at 18 or 19, you're still living with mom and dad, and you're making almost $50,000 a year. It may be a good job for you.
Good job. Well, look, we've run out of time, but we're certainly happy to have you on today. I know you got some other things you got to do today, some other town hall speaking engagement, but we appreciate you coming in.
Thank you, Mr. Dumas. Sorry I was late.
That's okay, and we're glad you're here. We'll see you guys on next week.
Thank you.
You have been listening to the live broadcast of the NAACP with Gwenette Westbrooks and Mr. Dumas. Come join us next Monday at 4:00 p.m. on 980 WDDO.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of the Glory 980 AM, the Glory Media Group, LLC, WDDO AM, its staff, management, or advertisers, but are the views and opinions of the participants of the broadcast.